Professor L. Venkatachalam, Professor, Madras Institute of Developmental Studies. We welcome you, sir, on behalf of Bharatdasan University. And now may I request our Honorable Syndicate Member, Dr. Jagannathan, to honor our speaker with a bouquet and a memento, sir. We are delighted to honor you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir. And now let's have a brief introduction about our Professor L. Venkatachalam. He is Professor RBI Chair at Madras Institute of Developmental Studies. He has been with Madras Institute of Developmental Studies since 2002 onwards. And he had been winning many awards since his student days, that is from MA studies onwards. And he has completed his project in Reserve Bank of India Doctoral Research Fellowship during the years 1992 to 96. And he has visited many places including Sweden, United Kingdom, United States of America in 2 universities, UC Berkeley and Cornell University, and also Canada in British Columbia University, France, and then Beijing, and finally Netherlands, Wageningen University. So we have an esteemed speaker today. We are delighted to welcome you to speak on funding schemes for social sciences and humanities and preparing a winning proposal. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Good evening to all of you. So the organizers have asked me to talk about the proposal writing, especially in social sciences. Of course, right from my predecessors might have covered various areas in natural sciences, technology, etc. But my job is to highlight how we can write proposals, successful proposals in social sciences. Okay. So before going into the details of writing proposals, let me just identify some of the funding agencies that the social scientists can approach with your proposal. So when we talk about social sciences, of course, it is the Indian Council of Social Science Research. They have regional centers in Hyderabad also. The headquarters is there in New Delhi. And ICSSR indeed has been funding a large number of projects in the past, but now over a period of time, the funding has declined. But still, they are sponsoring many projects depending on the kind of proposal. So please go through this ICSSR website and you will have a lot of relevant details on how to kind of identify areas that are relevant in social science research, and you can develop proposal. I will tell you how to develop proposal for some of these funding agencies. And then Indian Council of Agricultural Research, which is also funding research in social science related to agriculture. So take, for example, some of the issues like how do we introduce micro irrigation, how do we introduce organic farming, how do we nudge farmers to go in for agricultural diversification, so on and so forth. Okay, so those kinds of social science related projects are also being funded by this Indian Council of Agricultural Research. And then now the central government has pulled enormous amount of money into this ANRF, Anushadan National Research Foundation. Of course, many of you may be familiar with this particular kind of organization. So if you visit their website, you will find a lot of information about the areas in which they elicit proposals and the structure of the proposal and so on and so forth. And the Department of Science and Technology also does provide funding for social scientists. For example, one of our professors at Madras Institute of Development Studies wanted to work on how small water bodies help the kind of local community in terms of irrigation water, rainwater harvesting, groundwater exploitation, those kinds of things. Okay, so Department of Science and Technology, which is supposed to fund mainly the scientific proposals, is also funding social science related proposals, provided that your proposal is kind of attractive to them. And there are many individual ministries. For example, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change is funding a lot of projects, including social science related projects, and Ministry of Water Resources exclusively on water related projects. You have at the state level, you have state land use, Tamil Nadu State Land Use Research Board at State Planning Commission in Tamil Nadu. So if you visit their website, you will find the details about the kind of proposals to be submitted. You can submit proposal at any time in a year, but they will have a regular review meeting, and they will review all these proposals, and then they will ask you to come and make presentation of this proposal, of your proposal, and then finally they will select the proposal for funding. And of course, they are looking for some policy-oriented proposals. They are interested in public policy, and so policy-oriented proposals will be very much accepted by the State Planning Commission. And now our present government has established this Chief Minister's Research Grant, and the details are available in this particular website. And you can get a research grant from this particular kind of establishment as well. And the Malcolm and the Elizabeth Ardisacea Trust, which is a trust, basically, it's not a government organization. This trust is also sponsoring projects, but small projects, 1 lakh rupees worth of project, 5 projects every year, because they have only very limited funding. So what you can do is that you can submit a proposal and then use this 1 lakh as a seed money to develop a larger proposal. Of course, you have to do research, and from that research you can develop a larger proposal and then submit that larger proposal for larger funding. So this is a good institution to start with for the social scientists. And then at the international level, you have many organizations like Indo-Canadian Research Grants. So in the website, they have listed out various categories for research grant. One of the categories is research proposals. So they have also listed out some of the topics, specific topics on which you can submit the research proposals for funding. And another international agency, this is GIZ, India, German agency, which is focusing mainly on environment and biodiversity. So if you want to develop proposals on environment, for example, I did a project, a huge project for this funding agency. My project focused on how wetlands, the shallow water bodies, but the wetlands are very rich in biodiversity. They're very rich in generating ecosystem services that are being utilized by the communities. For example, we have found that a wetland, which were created inside the campus also, they generate around 36 different types of ecosystem services to the communities, local, regional, and even global level benefits like carbon sequestration, etc. So we indeed documented all these ecosystem services generated by the wetlands, and then put monetary value on them. So what is the economic value of carbon sequestration? What is the economic value of biodiversity protection? What is the economic value of groundwater recharge? What is the economic value of irrigation water? So we have indeed documented all these services and then put a monetary value in order to see how much is the economic value that comes from different types of wetlands. And indeed, these values are not being accounted for in the GDP estimation, and therefore GDP is not considered to be a kind of a proper indicator of sustainable development. So in that sense, our study contributed significantly to the existing literature on ecosystem valuation. And then you have International Water Management Institute located in Colombo. So this institute is also funding projects on water-related issues, actually. Okay? So how do we nudge farmers to kind of conserve water, and how to increase water user efficiency, and so on and so forth. Okay. Okay. Now, of course, there are many funding agencies. I have listed out only a very few of them, and I would urge you to look at the websites of various ministries, the government departments, and the international NGOs, especially like GIZ. You can find a lot of information about the funding opportunities. So, in the case of social sciences, the opportunity to get funding depends entirely on the proposal. How you write the proposal is very important. And the proposal should convey the research issue in a very systematic and lucid manner, okay? And it should be able to convince the funding agency that your research is innovative and creative, as well as it is beneficial to the society, because in social sciences, we are interested in addressing many public policy issues, okay? So the point that I'm trying to make here is that when we write a proposal, sometimes what happens is that, if you look at some kind of, advertisement for proposal, this thing, inviting proposals, right? So there'll be a huge amount of money, and then your institute will tell you, look, you develop a proposal and submit it. That is how we work, basically. So that will not yield any good results, because if you are not familiar with the subject, right, in which the proposal is being sought for, then you will not be able to write a successful proposal. So be familiar with the subject matter and the research issue, okay, which you are supposed to address, okay? When we talk about research issue, it is the issue that you are trying to address through our research. So basically, when we talk about a research issue, many of us do not know how to develop this research issue. For example, research issue comes from different sources, but that requires a lot of thinking, actually, right? So today, I was on the train, I was reading a newspaper article which talks about why NDA has been successful in Bihar, actually. Indeed, the NDA party members themselves did not expect that they will get 202 seats, okay? Previously, before the election, our Home Minister was talking about maximum 160 seats. He said 160 seats itself is a big thing, but they never expected that they will achieve this Himalayan kind of victory in Bihar. But then once the election results came in, there are a lot of theories. Some people say that, the votes were stolen, okay? And some people say that, no, that's not the case. you have huge developmental activities which have been implemented in the state by the NDA government, especially Nitish Kumar's government, over a period of time. And therefore, the growth rate was moving in a very excellent manner. For example, it is the second state in India which has achieved 10.2% growth rate in real terms. Apart from Gujarat, Bihar is the second state which has achieved. And they have also done many welfare programs like, giving 10,000 rupees for women, and rural roads have expanded. Drinking water supply went up to 90% coverage, and so on and so forth. Tremendous development work that has resulted in attracting votes for them. So this is another kind of argument. But then in NDA, I was thinking about this. So this is how the research issue emerges. I was thinking about this, namely, the Nitish Kumar government gave 10,000 rupees in bulk, one-time money actually. So with this one-time money, many women said that we could start a small business and earn something out of it. And then once they repay this 10,000, they will be able to get 20,000. 20,000 becomes 40,000, like this, okay? And in Tamil Nadu government also, Tamil Nadu state also, we are giving this 12,000 per year, but 1,000 rupees every month. When we look at the impact assessment of this particular scheme in Tamil Nadu, very recently some of the researchers have studied it. They approached many women who are getting this 1,000 rupees. Many women said, we are using this money for purchasing vegetables. And some women said that we are using it for purchasing medicine. Some women said school fee, etc., etc. But then, now the question is, research question is, whether the money should be given in bulk as one-time money, or it should be dispersed across the year. 12,000, 12 months, 10,000, one time, okay? So which one is better? If we give 1,000 rupees, then the people will be using it for daily kind of expenses, okay? That is how the women said that they are using it for buying medicine, vegetables, etc. So now a research proposal can be developed to see how such kind of cash transfer can be implemented in order to bring real benefits. Whether Bihar model is good or Tamil Nadu model is good. Maybe Tamil Nadu model may be better than Bihar model in many other terms, and vice versa, okay? This is one thing. Second thing is, when we look at these answers provided by the women in Tamil Nadu, there are additional research questions which are arising. For example, they say we are using this money for buying vegetables. Then what is happening with the vegetable price? Does the food inflation increase so that the women will have to pay for vegetables rather than using this money for something else? Okay. Now, so food inflation. So whether food inflation has some implication on the spending behavior of the people, those who are getting this cash transfer, that can be a proposal. And second thing is medicines, okay? They buy medicines. If the public hospitals, so what is the role then, okay? If people are buying medicines in the open market, then what is the role of the public hospitals? Are they not functioning well? Right? Poorer people can readily go to the public hospitals, get all their medical services, medicine, etc., etc. Then why are they using these 1,000 rupees for buying medicine? Okay, so that I'm not doing any politics here, but as a researcher, you need to think about all these kinds of things in order to develop research proposal. And let us come back to food inflation. Now, I was also thinking about this. We have been buying rice, okay? We are all rice eaters. for the past 15 years, I'm living in Chennai. I have been buying rice. The rice price has been constantly increasing over a period of time. I have never come across any situation where the rice price has gone down. But what is happening in Delta region? Recently, there was a controversy that lot of paddy, rice has been wasted because of rains. Some anecdotal evidence suggests that around 20 lakh tons of rice in Delta region has been spoiled because of rain. On the one hand, the rice is produced in excess and it is getting spoiled. So farmers could not sell it. And therefore, in economics, we study that when supply goes up, the price of it will come down. But why then rice price does not come down? What's the problem? Right? So this challenges the entire demand theory that we study in economics actually. So why there is a kind of paradox? When rice production increases, rice price will have to come down, but rice price is also increasing. Second thing is, what is the reason for farmers' distress? Okay? Very often, we are calculating only the cost of production. And many researchers like Narayan Murthy, they argue that the cost of production has been increasing, which is putting the farmers in deep trouble. But it is not only the cost of production, but also the transaction cost. The cost of transporting the food grains, the cost of waiting in the market. For example, the farmers will have to wait for 5 days, 6 days during the harvesting period. And there is an opportunity cost involved. And the cost of other things like, we come to know about these allegations that for every bag, the farmers will have to pay 40 rupees. So all these kinds of things, that cost is much more than the cost of production actually. So therefore, how do we minimize this transaction cost? What kind of the institution that is required for addressing this transaction cost, okay? So if you look at these kinds of, kind of anecdotes, you will find that one can develop a lot of research issues, and then these research issues can be nicely developed as a proposal, which can be kind of, readily funded by these funding agencies, because these are all very important development issues which need to be addressed immediately, and therefore the funding agencies, government agencies, they are all looking for solution, okay? So, identifying research issues requires reading and thinking, right? So there is no ready-made kind of research issue which is available, especially in social sciences. So, if you are familiar with the subject matter, and then if you constantly read the literature and the newspapers and what is going on around you through observations, you can develop the research issue, okay? And of course, reading is very important in social sciences. Of course, in all sciences, reading is very important. But nowadays, the reading habit has declined very drastically. So therefore, we have to retain the kind of, reading habit. At least we have to read 4 hours a day, minimum. And it can go up to 8 hours, but 4 hours is required for making yourself familiar with the subject matter. You can, over a period of time, become an expert in the field, right? And interaction with the peer group, that is how you can develop research issues. Identifying the potential funding agencies, sending the proposal with and without a call for proposal is also possible. Maybe, okay. So this is how the research proposal is being developed. I'm sorry. Yes. So what should be the major components of a research proposal, especially in social sciences, okay? So first, the title. The title should be very clear, and it should convey what you are going to do in your research. So the title itself should convey that, this is what you are going to do in your research. Take, for example, very recently, I did a project for Tamil Nadu government. It is again economic valuation of ecosystem services of wetlands in Tamil Nadu. The exact title goes like this: economic valuation of ecosystem services of 141 prioritized wetlands in Tamil Nadu. So this tells everything. What's the objective? Economic valuation. Of what? Ecosystem services. Of what? Because, ecosystem services are generated by so many environmental media: forest, biodiversity, water bodies, etc., etc. So ecosystem services generated by the wetlands. In Tamil Nadu, there are around 40,000 wetlands, but I was not going to deal with all 40,000 wetlands, but I was going to deal with only 141 wetlands identified by the government of Tamil Nadu. So it clearly conveys what we are going to do in the research, okay? So the title is very important. So the title. And then in the introduction, for example, many of the agricultural proposals on agriculture, it will start like this: India is an agricultural oriented country. India is an underdeveloped country. So this is what is not wanted actually. So you have to be kind of, you have to be very straightforward in highlighting the research issue, okay? Of course, we have already spoken about research issue in detail, how you can develop research issue, how you can develop thinking about a research issue, and that would pave way for developing research proposal, etc. So the research issue has to be innovative. It's not that, the problems with, for example, many research proposals are dealing with things, something like this. If you find some study had addressed problems related to camels in Rajasthan, then you just extend that to livestock in Tamil Nadu, okay? So that should not be the approach, but, your research issue has to be innovative, creative, and then only you will be able to get the funding successfully. And the importance of the research study is also very important. So in what way your study is going to help the policymakers, okay? So that's very important. But in many proposals, we see that, this study is going to help the policymakers. Very, very blind statement, right? So in what way this will help the policymakers will have to be very clearly addressed in the importance or need for the research issue, okay? So these are the two things which will have to be highlighted in the introductory part of the research proposal. And third one is review of literature. Many international organizations, funding agencies will look for what is that your research, what is that something new that your research is contributing to the existing literature, okay? For example, in the case of farmers, many studies have addressed the cost of production issue. But there are very few studies which have addressed the transaction cost involved in agricultural activities, okay? So the transportation, the waiting time in the markets, agricultural markets, and the opportunity cost of losing your food grains, all those kinds of things, okay? So, so the review of literature will have to very lucidly say, so far what research has been done on the topic, and in what way your research is going to contribute something more, okay? Something innovative, okay? So, the research review of literature requires, very lengthy discussion. So there are different ways in which you can review the literature, etc. But I'm not going to deal with that particular aspect in detail because of scarcity of time. So review of literature is very important, okay? So you just highlight in one section what is the current study on the topic and what is your study that is trying to contribute something new, okay? And then objectives. In certain proposals, I see 12 objectives, 15 objectives. You should have only 3 objectives, maximum 3 objectives, and very clearly spelled out objectives. Sometimes, 15 objectives, 16 objectives, your proposal will get immediately rejected if the proposal is being reviewed by some serious committee, actually, okay? So please keep the objectives as much as simple and minimum, okay? In my economic valuation study, it's only one objective. What is the monetary value of the ecosystem services generated by the wetlands? Then you explain why this monetary value is very important, okay? So that is how the objective should be framed. And methodology. In methodology sections, and many of the proposals fail because of this methodology. We understand methodology in terms of data. We say we will collect secondary data and primary data. So that is methodology. That's not methodology. That's only data. Methodology includes all these kinds of things. Methodology includes the theoretical framework. In economics, for example, there are 2 broad schools of thought, right? If you want to analyze the farmer's behavior in terms of micro irrigation, adaptation to micro irrigation, or adaptation to climate change activities, etc. Then there are 2 broad types of behavior. One is rational behavior. Individuals are behaving rationally. So that is the well-established kind of assumption in economics. And very recently, there is another school of thought which says that individuals are not rational, they are boundedly rational, okay? So therefore, your theoretical framework should guide you which one of these 2 frameworks you are going to work for your research. Otherwise, your results and, the kind of policy implications that you are going to derive from the results, they will be sometimes misconceived by the policymakers, by the funding agencies, actually. So if you clearly tell them that, look, I am going to use rationality framework or boundedly rational framework, then you will be able to substantiate, justify your results and policy implications later on, okay? So that is where the theoretical framework is very important. Research design, what is the blueprint, right? Research design is the blueprint. For example, if you want to construct a house, you cannot simply go and, put all your cement bricks, etc., and keep constructing. You need a well-established, well-designed blueprint. So how much square feet area, how many rooms should be there, and whether the house should be facing north or east or west or south. All those kinds of things are required for constructing a house. Similarly, your research design should also guide you how you are going to do research, okay? So that is where the research design comes in, okay? So that includes the research methods. When we talk about research methods, many of us write saying that, no, I'm going to do survey method. That's fine. But everybody will be doing survey, right? So therefore, you need to clearly distinguish between different types of methods that are followed, especially in economics. I'm an economist, so therefore I am highlighting this particular aspect from the economics discipline. So you have natural experiments, okay? For example, I was telling you Bihar and Tamil Nadu. So there is a natural experimentation. What is the natural experimentation? Whether the money can be given at once, 10,000 rupees, or the money can be dispersed across the entire area. So this is naturally existing. In Bihar, it is one time. In Tamil Nadu, it is dispersal across the year. So you are comparing these two naturally already existing kind of differences, and that is why it's called natural experimentation. Okay? And what is quasi-experimentation? Quasi-experimentation means that, for example, if you want to study how the piped water supply improves the human health, okay, go to Bihar. In Tamil Nadu, we have almost 100% coverage. In Bihar, you have 90% coverage, but 10% is not covered, okay? So identify 10% of the people and compare them with another 10% of the people who have already got the water supply, okay? So this is what is called quasi-experimentation. You have similar kind of group, poor people who have already got water, who have not yet got water, okay? So comparing the health status of these two groups will tell you whether the piped water supply has significant impact, positive impact on health status of the people actually, okay? So that is what is called quasi-experimentation. Another one is randomized experimentation. What is randomized experimentation? For example, in Delhi, the researchers divided one particular area, Gargan area, into two parts. One is treatment group. One is called treatment group. The other one is called control group, okay? Households are similar, but they are located in the, maybe in two different streets, okay, in the same locality. They went to one group, treatment group, and told them that, look, your water coming from the public tap is not good. So therefore, you have to take some measures to purify it. Some of them may install aquaguard, some of them may boil it and drink it, like that, okay? In another group, which is called control group, they did not tell anything, but they went and said that, you continue with whatever you are doing. So one group was provided with this information, another group was not provided with this information. So after 6 months, they went to both the groups and found that the group which got this information changed its behavior in terms of boiling water, treating water through aquaguard, etc., etc. And therefore, this has important policy implication, namely, when your water public supply is contaminated, what kind of the information that you have to provide. And providing information is very important because that has brought a lot of significant changes in the behavior of the people actually, okay? So this is what is called randomized experimentation. The researcher giving the information, giving the treatment, rather than using the existing treatment, like, Bihar versus Tamil Nadu. It's already existing. The researcher need not have to give anything. Whereas in the case of randomized control trial, the researcher provides information and does not provide same information to another group and then study both the groups, okay? So in the methodology research method section, you have to explain this very clearly, what kind of the method that you are going to use in our research. That's very important, rather than saying that I'm going to use survey method. This is very, very blind kind of statement actually. And that would definitely reduce the probability of you getting funding from the funding agency. Data sources, so of course you have secondary data and then primary data. And if you are collecting primary data, then which method you are using to collect that primary data, that needs to be explained. Again, primary data, you have to clearly mention the sample design, how much sample you are going to collect, and in what way you are going to collect this sample, whether you are going to use a convenience sampling, purposive sampling, which is non-probability sampling, or are you going to use a probability sampling where you are going to use stratified random sampling, proportionately stratified random sampling, all those kinds of things, okay? So those designs will have to be clearly explained and very briefly, okay? And then method of data collection, quantitative methods, qualitative methods, you have focus group discussion, narrative stories, all those kinds of things coming under qualitative method. And if you are using quantitative method, then it is well-structured questionnaire. How this questionnaire is, going to be prepared, what are the components that are going to be there in the questionnaire, all of them will have to be explained. Sometimes, some of the researchers may use both quantitative and qualitative methods, which is called mixed method. So you have to explain this mixed method, how you are going to use this mixed method. And then very briefly describe about the analysis of data, because, in the proposal, you need not have to explain that, in what method, or what way, what is the method of data analysis that you are going to deploy, because once you have collected the data, you can come and sit with the data and then decide about what kind of the method that can be used. But in many proposals, the researchers say that I am going to use SPSS. That is not the method of data analysis. But the method of data analysis may consist of whether you are going to use econometrics technique, within econometric techniques, whether you are going to use ordinary least square method, or logit method, or probit method, or nested logit, or, there are so many things actually, okay? So you can very briefly mention about the method of analysis, but not in detail actually, okay? And then conclusion and policy implications. So in what way the results would help the policymakers to basically make use of these results for improving the policies or coming out with the new policies, okay? For example, if you find that rather than giving 1,000 rupees every month, if government of Tamil Nadu gives 10,000 rupees or 12,000 rupees once at a time, then you may kind of say, it's only prediction, okay? You predict that this method is better than the other method. But whether this prediction is valid or not will be understood only after analyzing the data, okay? And the references, very important. So you have to cite all the references that you have used for preparing this proposal, especially in the review of literature. And if you want to append some questionnaire or something like that, you can do that. So this is how the broad proposal looks like, okay? And sometimes some of the funding agency may require a different structure of the proposal, and therefore I would suggest that when you submit the proposal, please follow the format required by the funding agency. And sometimes some funding agency may require interdisciplinary kind of proposal. You may have to work with some other department. It can be a biology department or ecology department, okay? So either from within the university or from outside university. Sometimes the ANRF, the Government of India's funding agency, right? So they want you to include one foreign scholar also in the team actually. So indeed they look for some authentic proposal from authentic researchers, and you have to keep all these things in your mind. And these are the basic things. I'm sorry, the time does not permit me to go further. And so if there are any questions, then we'll take the questions up for discussion, maybe for another 5 minutes. Yes.
Yes, sir. Do we have any questions over there? Yes.
Good afternoon, sir. How do we select journal for publication, a good journal, or is there any factor for that, for selection?
Basically, there are umpteen number of journals available in the public domain. For example, if you look at Science Direct, you have more than 26,000 journals listed there. So you have to go to the social science section and then find out in the social science section, for example, some of the journals may be dealing with macroeconomy, some of the journals may be dealing with monetary economics, some of them may be dealing with agriculture, environmental economics, institutional economics, behavioral economics. So if you are working on agricultural economics, then find out, agricultural economics related journals. And within agricultural economics, there are journals which may be looking for models and, or empirical studies or policy-oriented studies. So if your paper deals with something on policy, then select policy-oriented journals, right? So that is how you have to do. So you have to do a complete homework. And all journals are available in the public domain, and only thing is you have to visit the website of the journal, especially the author guidelines. Scope of the journal is very important. So you look at the scope of the journal. So that tells you whether they are looking for model-based studies, empirical studies, or historical studies, or policy-oriented studies, okay? That is how you should identify a journal. Yes?
Now the famous Scopus Web of Science, lot of sources are there. Now people are loving the H-index. How to get the H-index papers? We are published in Scopus, and the universities, they are asking about H-index for individuals. How do we get it?
No, H-index will automatically come in. So
by citation.
You have to publish in the good quality journals.
Q1 like that.
Yes, yeah. Scopus journals, there are many Scopus journals, but not paid ones. There are many Scopus journals which are also kind of, paid ones. Don't depend on paid ones. If you want your work to be recognized by others, peers, experts, then you have to publish your work in the good quality journal. But usually, many of us think about publishing in A category journal immediately in our career. But my strategy is, initially, you harvest the low-lying fruits. Don't worry about H-index, all those kinds of things immediately, right? So gradually you can move on, okay? So low-lying fruits, some normal journals, which are read by, many researchers actually, okay? But these journals may not be in the A category or B category. But then, if you feel that, I'll tell you one thing. For example, there is a Nobel Prize winner, Ronald Coase. He got Nobel Prize in the year 1991 in economics. The first paper was published in Economica. It was not a very big journal in those days, Economica. It's a very, compared to American Economic Review, Journal of Political Economy, Quarterly Journal of Economics, etc. It's a very normal journal only. But then he got Nobel Prize for that paper that has been published in Economica. In 1960, he published another paper, Law and Economics, right? So both the papers revolutionized the entire economics. Because of these two papers, a lot of subdisciplines in economics emerged, like law and economics, institutional economics, environmental economics, industrial organization. All these subdisciplines emerged because of this original work. So it's basically the creative thinking, innovative ideas. So where you publish does not matter, but what you publish does matter. So initially, don't think about hi-fi journals. Then you will get disappointed when your articles get rejected, okay? So there are even normal journals which are read by a large number of people actually, okay? So think about this like this, yeah.
Thank you, Professor.
There are two more questions online. If there is any question, yeah, let's finish it.
Thank you very much, sir. Your presentation, major components of research proposal is very nice. I am going to ask one question. For data collection, the tools are very, very important. Can you explain the different type of tools? You are
Tools of
using only
analysis.
tools. You
Tools
are
of
using only questionnaires.
Yeah,
You are explaining somewhat about the questionnaire. Any other tools other than the questionnaire?
No, basically in social sciences, in the case of quantitative studies, we use questionnaire, interview schedule, those kinds of things, because they are well structured. Nowadays, these questionnaires are not used in the POPI format, paper and pencil format, but in the copy format, that is computer-assisted personal interviews, okay? So you just keep recording the answers, and answers will automatically go to the server. You can readily take the data and analyze it. So you need not have to enter all the data once again in the case of paper and pencil kind of surveys. So, of course, mainly in social sciences, this is the major technique. But of course, if you are using qualitative studies, then it is group discussion, focus group discussion, which does not require any questionnaire. But only thing is you have to kind of initiate the discussion and then record all the information provided by this group. Narrative stories, you talk to some individuals about the history of a particular, wetland, for example, and then record that story. That can go into the report, right? So these are some of the kind of tools that we widely use in social sciences.
Sir.
I wish to congratulate you for this clear presentation on the research proposal. I would like to get some insight on the Research Ethical Committee for Social Science, whether any previous institutions have such committee, because what we heard is it's applicable only for science disciplines. But then nowadays, the premier publications like Elsewhere, Springer, they are asking for whether your tools of data collection have been validated by the committee and all. They ask for no proven evidence for the same. So I'd like to have some insight on it. Thank you.
So indeed, previously, many researchers, for example, this NFHS, National Family Health Survey Organization, they take blood sample and then they ask questions related to sexually transmitted diseases, those kinds of things. So since these are all kind of, personal kind of questions, taking blood sample, etc. So you need some ethical committee that has to approve this kind of studies actually, okay, experimentations. But usually in social sciences, what we do, we take a questionnaire and then ask how many household members are there and what is the area of land that you are cultivating, etc., etc. But these things are not very highly ethically controversial kind of issues, and therefore we took all these things for granted in the past. But as you rightly said, of late, many of the journals are asking this ethical committee's approval. But I think that in IIT Chennai, in HSS, the Humanities and Social Science Department, they have constituted an ethical committee which will go through the questionnaire and then certify that this research does not involve any ethical kind of this thing. But at our institution, MIDS, there is no such ethical committee, even though we are doing a lot of individual research. But then I think that the organizations like ICSSR will have to think about it. Even ICSSR does not have any clear guidelines on constituting these ethical committees. Now journals are asking, and therefore this will gradually emerge in the field of social sciences, and these ethical committees will also become one of the institutional arrangements for social sciences in the future. So that's a very important question actually. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, the online questions.
Sir, excuse me, sir. Sir, good evening, sir. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's now there is only one question, but it's a very basic question, sir. How to find out the Q1 journals from their own disciplines?
That I have already answered, okay?
Yes, sir.
So they have to
Yes.
do the web search, they have to do the homework,
Yes, sir.
then they will be able to find out appropriate journal. But my only advice is that if you are a junior researcher, budding researcher, then look for some normal, regular standard journal rather than looking at, kind of A category, Scopus journals, etc., etc. So
Yes, sir.
gradually move on to the top slowly. Yeah.
Hope Soumya's question is being answered. So thank you. We have come to the final. Before
There is one more
okay.
question, if you don't mind. Yeah,
Yes,
we'll
sir,
take
sir.
it.
Go
Yeah.
ahead, sir.
Good evening, sir. Thank you for giving this opportunity. Nice presentation, sir. I have one question. How to identify the cloned journal and good journal, sir?
Okay. I don't know. Basically, I'm not familiar with this paid journals actually. Sometimes what happens is, when you visit a particular website of a journal, immediately some message box will pop up,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
right?
Okay.
On the right hand side of your screen.
Yes, sir.
When you visit a journal website, some message box, small message box will pop up.
Okay.
Then they will ask you, some AI will ask you, or somebody will ask you, can I help you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That means that, gradually, when you say, yes, I need help. So what kind of help? No, I want to publish this article. Maybe you can pay 18,000.
Yes,
We will give you the first author. Or if you pay 10,000, we will give you the third author, like that, okay?
Okay,
So don't rely on these journals, actually, okay?
Okay,
And also, if you look at, the other way to find out good journal is that, there are organizations like, for example, UGC listed, CARE list was there, but you look at the CARE list, and then there you can find good quality journals listed.
Okay.
Similarly, there may be other organizations which might have listed, for example, the IITs, IIMs, they might have listed good quality journals. So from that, you can identify the good quality journals and the paid journals, actually. Don't go in for paid journals.
Okay, sir. We have to check it ISSN number, DOI, and like that.
No, even the paid journals are also coming out with ISSN number, all those kinds of things.
Okay.
So don't get carried away by all those things. But only thing is, look at some, agencies. I don't remember immediately recall the agencies which are listing out the journals, but you have to depend on these agencies list.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much for covering up all the possible areas of social sciences and humanities, sir.